The sky was dark, the wind howling over the sea like an angry voice, and the waves were crashing so high it felt like the end of the world. But in the middle of this chaos there was a man, Jonah, who wasn't praying. He wasn't begging for mercy like the rest of the sailors. Instead, he just stood there, staring at the angry sea as if he knew something we didn't. And that's when Jonah said it. "Throw me into the sea and it will become calm." The sailors were stunned. How could throwing him overboard stop the storm? It didn't make sense. But the storm kept getting worse and they were desperate. Jonah spoke again, his voice steady, almost calm. "I am running from God." They didn't want to believe it. But the storm was proof that something bigger was happening. Reluctantly, they did what Jonah asked. They threw him into the sea. And the moment his body hit the water, something incredible happened. The sea, once wild and furious, went still. The wind stopped and the waves settled. The storm that had nearly destroyed them was gone in an instant. But then, as they watched in shock, something even stranger happened. From the depths of the ocean, a massive fish appeared, its mouth wide open. It swallowed Jonah whole, and in a moment, both Jonah and the fish vanished beneath the calm waters. They stood there, unable to speak. What had we just seen? For 3 days and nights they talked about nothing else. Jonah was gone, and they were certain he was dead. Who could survive being inside a fish for so long? But on the third day, a fisherman near the shore ran to them, his face pale with shock. "Jonah is alive!" he shouted. "The fish spit him out!" They rushed to the shore, and there, standing soaked and weak but very much alive, was Jonah. He was covered in seaweed, his clothes torn, but his face was peaceful. He told us what happened inside the fish. For 3 days, he had been in complete darkness, unable to move. He prayed, crying out to God, and in that deep, cold place, God heard him. Jonah recited his prayer to them, his voice trembling as he remembered those long days inside the belly of the fish. In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead, I called for help, and you listened to my cry. Jonah 2, verse 2. Jonah told them how, after 3 days of praying and waiting, the fish suddenly rose to the surface and spat him out onto dry land. He was alive because God had saved him. But Jonah wasn't the same man anymore. He knew he couldn't run from God's plan any longer. "I have to go to Nineveh," he said. And this time, there was no hesitation in his voice. They watched him walk away, a man changed by the mercy of God. As he left for Nineveh, the words of his prayer stayed with him. "When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple." Jonah 2, verse 7. The story of Jonah teaches us that no matter how far we try to run, we cannot escape God's plan for our lives. Even in the darkest, most hopeless places, God's mercy can reach us. Jonah's journey reminds us that it's never too late to turn back to God. His patience and forgiveness are greater than our mistakes. So, just like Jonah, we can trust that God's love will always find a way to bring us back.